Hey guys, I'm Kent and welcome back to my channel. So I thought I'd do a video on all of the different lighting solutions I've put into my 2025 Honda Dax 125 so far. So I'll talk about the custom headlight setup that I have, the custom tail lights, as well as the turn signals. And I did figure out how to illuminate that scooter swap shop vertical license plate that I installed in an earlier video. So wanted to walk you through all of those. A lot of this involves 3D printing too, and I'll link to the actual files in case you're interested in downloading and printing them yourself or making it a better solution than the one that I put together. So I thought I'd start with the headlight. So on my 2019 Honda Monkey, at one point I made it a track bike and I took out the headlight and printed this number plate. So I had already done the work to figure out the exact dimensions of making it fit within the stock headlight ring. Anyway, this was a great solution for a while. Ended up putting the stock headlight back into the Monkey, but had this template ready when I wanted to do a custom headlight for the Dax. The Dax and the Monkey have the same headlight. So I started off with the Diode Dynamics SS3 headlight. This is the combo version that has both the immediate fill as well as the longer range fill light that I think is good for riding this mini moto around in the dark. But anyway, I started with the template to cut the exact size that I need. So it started here. I went through a few different iterations. This was really thin because I didn't want to spend too much time printing if it didn't fit. And then eventually from Shapeways had it done in a much finer material. I think this is called PLA 12. I can't exactly remember, but it uses a different process. It comes out in this somewhat matte finish, which I think looks really good, and a very finished product. So I'll open up the headlight bucket to show you how I have everything wired and configured, as well as how I was able to mount this plate to the headlight ring and have it nice and solid. I put a lot of miles on the bike. The light doesn't flicker around. It's nice and sturdy. But let me show you what it looks like with the ignition on and running without the light switch flipped. It's got this cool amber running light. I think it looks great. And then I'm using the the high beam switch as the headlight switch. So I can run it effectively without the headlight and just this amber light when I want to, and then the on switch when I want all of the power. This pulls quite a bit more amps than the stock one does, so especially when I'm starting the engine, it's always better just to have it off, although there's no problem starting it with it on. Anyway, again, so it's got the cool amber backlight. There was also an option for a red backlight, but from a legality perspective, I thought that'd be a bad idea. Plus, I think the amber just looks appropriate here. So let me open up the headlight bucket and show you how all of this is wired. So bringing you in here, you can see I just made these little aluminum L brackets to mount the custom plate that I 3D printed to the sides of the ring so that that's solid. And then the SS3 light just has these 4 nuts that are used to mount and secure it to the plate. So there are only 4 wires out of the stock harness that you need to power this SS3 headlight. Out of the stock harness, the green wire is ground, and I have that going to the black wire. The black wire is switched power, so I have that going to the blue wire on the harness, which is the positive lead for the amber light. And then I also have that black wire from the stock harness tied into the white wire from the stock harness. The white wire and the yellow wire are the 2 wires that are being switched when you complete the circuit for the high beam light. So I have the black wire also going to the white wire, which sends power to the switch. When the switch is closed, brings power down this yellow wire into the red wire on the harness, which powers the main headlight. For the turn signals, I have these cute little ones that I picked up from Amazon. They were particularly inexpensive. I think they were only 15 or 20 bucks. I'll link to everything that I can in the description below. But to mount them, I also 3D printed this bracket here that fills up the space that the stock one took up so that everything looks nice and clean. I actually didn't design this piece. This was something that I found on Thingiverse, but I'll link to that as well because it was a perfect solution to get this mounted really well. Now, if you are changing the turn signals in either the front or the rear or both, you need to install a relay flasher or else they'll flash really fast or won't flash at all. So to do that, you have to access the relay that's inside of this area. There's 3 screws. It's kind of irritating. 2 are actually Phillips or JIS screws, and then there's 1 5mm Allen key. Once those 3 bolts are out, you kind of pull from the top and it pivots down, and there's a couple clips for it to pull this way. But bringing you in close, the flasher relay is right here. I'll link in the description below to one of these as well, but definitely need to pick it up if you're planning on putting different turn signals on the bike. And then flipping here to the rear of the bike, I'm really happy with the way that my very short fender turned out. So I just chopped off the stock fender, and then I actually put this on top of what was left of the fender to get that exact curvature that the stock one had. I did have to cut it as short as I did though, because as you can see, this protrusion here for the light mount went all the way up to here. So I went just as far as I could, but the overall length is something that I'm really happy with. And then from a lighting perspective, I use these little lights. They double as running lights, as well as brake lights, as well as turn signals. Out of the box, they were actually a little too bright as a running light, so I did run resistors on these two just so that they were a little dimmer and that the difference between the running light and the brake light was noticeable enough. And then I also mounted this additional running / brake light just so that there was a little bit of additional light in the setup. But at night, especially the brake light is extremely bright. And again, the running lights were too bright for me. I dimmed them down a little bit, but I think are effective, and I like the way that looks. It also kind of looks like that, I don't know what that emoji is called, but it's kind of the flat smile emoji. I think I'll make a sticker of that and put it somewhere on the bike. The way that I mounted these though, I 3D printed this little top hat deal so that it could sit just far enough down that there was enough threads to mount it, because these lights are actually now the bolts that are securing this fender to the frame of the bike, but that then also neatly fills out this space so that, it also acts as a washer and completes filling up the space here in this hole that initially was those big bolts that had another nut inside so that you could run the grab bar. But again, happy with the way that that looks overall. This metal bracket that I have here holding this lower light is actually from a tail tidy that I picked up on Amazon, also for really cheap. I just ended up cutting the end here, and it just happened to perfectly line up where there are these diagonals here that happen to then leave this space that's the exact same length as this light. So again, I'll link to all of these different parts that I used to put this together. None of this required any special tools. There was obviously a little bit of an art to getting this curvature perfect, a lot of sanding. And then from a paint perspective, this is actually just spray paint, but I spray painted it and then wet sanded it up to 2000 grit, and then did a polish to get this nice satin finish that looks much better than most out of the can spray jobs go. So this is my rear setup that I'm happy with now. I did hear that Man in the Box is making their own custom rear setup for this, so really excited to see what that looks like, and hoping to get my hands on it once they have that put together, and we'll be trying it out on this bike. And then last thing, this is small, but I was particularly happy with the way that this one turned out. So there's a bolt here, just an M6 bolt that mounts the chain guard. This little light that I have is also an M6 bolt on the end, so I'm using this to secure the chain guard fender as well as illuminate the license plate. And it'll be difficult to see because all the wires are really small, plus I think the light is kind of changing the exposure here, but I have these little micro connectors, and I'll show it on the other side, so that I can pull this off by just taking out the connectors. I have the wire running along the very top of this. It's both glued and I have speed tape in it, so it should be pretty secure. And then in here you can see another one of the little micro connectors that I have that I can pull off if I need to remove the chain guard. And then I have a grommet here running through the hole in the frame. I'm not sure what those holes were for, but it was a perfect solution for this to really hide that wiring. I see a lot of folks that when they want to configure something like this, just have a wire running along the swing arm, and I think that looks particularly messy, but the way that I have this set up now, I think looks really clean. Anyway, I'm sure this bike will continue to evolve, including the lights, but really happy with the way that it's looking right now. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this light setup. And if you're interested, again, in doing any of this yourself, I will link to both the 3D printed parts that I designed, as well as some of the others that I used in the setup. And all of the lights and other things that I can link to for sale will do as well, in case you're interested, again, in doing something similar. If this video was interesting at all, please give me that thumbs up. I got a lot of mods, and I say this in every video, but I still have a lot of modifications left on this bike. I still haven't really done any power modifications. I know DHM is finishing up their tunes for this bike. I'm sure over the course of time, this bike will change quite a bit, but enjoying modifying it and sharing with you guys. Thank you everybody very much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos and keep on building.